happened about 2 years ago, back when I was living in Colorado. At that time, I used to travel a lot because of my work. And honestly, I never had a problem driving alone. I actually liked it. Long, empty roads, quiet nights, and the feeling that you are far away from everything. But after that one night, I stopped taking random shortcuts, because sometimes the road that saves you time can take you somewhere you were never supposed to go. It was late November. I was driving back home after finishing a work trip. The drive was supposed to be simple, just a few hours on the highway, then I would be home. But that night, the weather changed quickly. The rain started getting heavier, the wind was shaking my car, and the fog was making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. My GPS showed a small route through a remote area in Montana. It said it would save me almost an hour. Normally, I would have ignored a road like that. But I was tired, and I just wanted to get home. So I took it. At first, everything felt normal. The road was empty. The trees on both sides looked endless. And for almost 30 minutes, I didn't see a single person. No houses, no lights, no other cars, just darkness. Then suddenly, my car started slowing down. I pressed the accelerator. Nothing happened. The engine started making a strange sound. And a few seconds later, the car completely stopped, right in the middle of nowhere. I sat there quietly for a moment, thinking maybe it would start again, but it didn't. I tried turning the key. Nothing. I checked my phone. No signal. That was the moment I realized I was completely alone. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The rain was freezing. Within seconds, my clothes were already wet. I opened the hood of the car. I looked around. I tried checking whatever I could. But honestly, I knew I wasn't fixing anything in that storm. I closed the hood. And that's when I noticed something. A light. Far away, between the trees. At first, I thought maybe another car was passing. But the light wasn't moving. It was coming from a house. A small wooden house. Standing alone in the forest. The strange part was, I didn't remember seeing any house on the map. But at that moment, I didn't care. I just needed help. So I locked my car and started walking toward it. The closer I got, the stranger the place felt. The house looked old, very old, but the lights were on. Someone was inside. I walked to the door and knocked. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, the door slowly opened. An old man was standing there. He looked around his late 60s. He looked at me, then looked past me toward the road, and the first thing he said was, "You shouldn't be here tonight." I thought it was a strange thing to say, so I told him my car broke down. I asked if I could use his phone. He didn't answer immediately. He just kept staring into the darkness behind me. Then finally, he moved aside. "Come inside." I entered the house, and that was the first mistake I made that night, because the moment I stepped inside, the old man locked the door behind me. Not normally, but like he was keeping something outside. For a few seconds, I just stood there, looking at the locked door. A single thought kept running through my mind. Why did he lock it? If the storm outside was the only problem, then why did he lock the door like he was trying to keep something out? I looked at the old man. "Is everything okay?" He looked at me, then gave a small smile. "Just a habit." His answer sounded simple, but something about his expression felt wrong, like he was hiding something. Then an old woman walked out from the kitchen. She looked at me and smiled. "You're lucky." I looked at her. "Lucky?" She stayed quiet for a moment, then said, "Because you found this house tonight." I didn't understand what she meant, but I was tired. I just wanted to rest. The old man handed me a cup of coffee, then pointed toward the stairs. "There is a guest room upstairs. You can sleep there." I started walking upstairs, but before I reached the first step, he stopped me. His face suddenly became serious, and he said quietly, "Remember one thing." I turned around. "If you hear something tonight, don't open the door." At first, I thought he was joking. I even smiled a little, but he didn't smile back. Then he said, "Even if someone calls your name, do not answer." A strange fear started building inside me. I asked, "Why?" He didn't answer directly. He just looked towards the upstairs hallway and said, "Because not every voice belongs to a person." After that, I went into the room. It was an old room, a wooden bed, a small table, and a window facing the dark forest outside. I placed my phone on the table. Still no signal. I looked outside. The rain was getting heavier. The trees were moving with the wind. Everything looked normal. But then, I noticed something strange. There was no clock in the room. Not on the wall, not on the table, nowhere. I thought it was weird, but I ignored it. I lay down on the bed, and after some time, I fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept, but suddenly, I woke up, and I don't know why, but I felt like someone was standing near me. I slowly opened my eyes. The room was completely dark, and then I heard it. Footsteps. Outside my door, slow, very slow. My heartbeat started getting faster. Then the footsteps stopped. Right outside my room, I stayed completely still. And then I heard a voice, very quiet. "Hey!" My whole body froze. Then the voice said my name, and the most terrifying part was, it was my voice, exactly like mine. Then it whispered, "Open the door." At that moment, I remembered what the old man told me. If someone calls your name, don't answer. So I stayed silent. A few seconds passed. Then the footsteps slowly moved away. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I went downstairs. The old man was already sitting near the fireplace. He looked at me, and the first thing he asked was, "You heard it, didn't you?" I stopped, because I never told him anything. I just stood there, frozen, because the old man somehow knew. He knew I had heard something last night, but I never told him anything. So how did he know? I slowly asked, "How did you know?" The old man looked at me for a few seconds. Then he turned toward the fireplace and quietly said, "Because you are not the first person this has happened to." A cold feeling went through my body. I asked, "What exactly is this place?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward an old cabinet. He took out a small notebook. The notebook looked extremely old. The pages were yellow, like it had been sitting there for years. He placed it in front of me. I opened the first page. There were names written inside, dozens of names, and next to every name, there was a date. I kept turning the pages, and then I noticed something. Every person had the same story. They all found this house during a storm, just like me. I looked at the old man. "Who are these people?" He looked at the notebook and quietly replied, "People who stayed here." I frowned. "What happened to them?" He looked directly into my eyes and said, "They never left." My hands went cold before I could ask anything else. His wife walked into the room. She was holding an old photograph. She placed it on the table. I picked it up. And the moment I saw it, my breathing stopped. The picture showed the same house, the same forest, the same place. But standing outside the house was a little boy, a child, and that child was me. I looked at the old couple. How is this possible? The old man looked at me and said, "You don't remember. But this house does." Suddenly, a sound came from upstairs, a door opening. The old man's face changed. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He whispered, "You need to leave." I said, "My car is still broken outside." He looked at me and said, "Your car doesn't matter anymore. Getting out of this house does." But before we could reach the door, the lights started flickering. Then everything went dark, and in that darkness, I heard a voice. My voice. "You're leaving again." My entire body froze. The voice was coming from upstairs. Then slowly, I heard footsteps. The old man moved back and whispered, "It's going to make you remember that you have been here before." Suddenly, memories started coming back. A rainy night, this same house, a child crying, and me closing a door. I couldn't breathe because I finally understood. I wasn't here for the first time. I had escaped from this place before. Then, someone appeared at the bottom of the stairs. A figure. It looked exactly like me. Same face, same height, same voice. But something was wrong. Its eyes, they were completely empty. It smiled and said, "You left me here," the old man whispered. "This house doesn't call people. It brings back the ones who already belong to it." The figure took one step closer, then said, "Now, you have to take my place." The lights went out, and the last thing I remember was silence. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting inside my car. The storm was gone. The sun was rising. And the house was nowhere to be found. I went to the police later. I told them everything, but they said something that made no sense. There is no farmhouse in that area. I showed them the picture. They looked at it for a few seconds. Then one officer said, "That house burned down 20 years ago." My heart stopped because on the back of the photograph, there was a message written in my handwriting. "You will come back." Even today, whenever I drive alone at night and I see a road I don't recognize, I never take it. Because now I know some places don't appear on maps, but somehow they always find you. Some people say that house never existed, but if that's true, then who wrote my name in that old notebook? Tell me in the comments, was it a real place, or was it waiting for me?